The first thing Nurse Hannah Cole heard was not the storm. It was the sound of claws scraping against the ambulance bay doors. 3 sharp hits. Then a body slammed against the glass. Every nurse at St. Bartholomew Regional turned toward the entrance. Rain hammered the parking lot outside. Red ambulance lights flashed across the wet floor. For half a second, no one moved. Then the doors slid open. A Belgian Malinois stumbled into the emergency room. He was soaked, bleeding, and wearing a torn tactical vest. His legs shook under him, but he did not fall. Not yet. His amber eyes swept the room like he had been trained to search through smoke. Gunfire. And fear. A black collar hung loose around his neck. One side of his vest was ripped open. Dark blood marked the straps. A security guard shouted, "Dog, get back!" The canine bared his teeth. People scattered from the ambulance entrance. A young resident dropped a clipboard. Someone screamed from the waiting area. But Hannah did not step back. She saw what the others missed. The dog was not hunting. He was looking for someone. The Malinois took 3 painful steps across the tile. His paws left red prints behind him. He turned his head toward Trauma Bay 3, where the paramedics had just rolled in an unconscious man in a torn field jacket. The dog whined, not loud, not wild, broken. Then his front legs gave out. Hannah moved before anyone gave her permission. "Stop, doctor." Everett Sloan barked from behind the nurse's station. "Do not touch that animal." Hannah was already on her knees. The canine's body trembled under the wet tactical vest. His breathing came fast and shallow. His gums were pale. There was blood under his left shoulder. And his ribs moved unevenly. The dog lifted his head and growled. 2 guards froze. Hannah lowered her voice. "Easy," she said. "I'm not taking it." The growl softened, but his eyes stayed locked on her hands. Hannah looked down. One paw was pressed over the front of the tactical vest. Even dying, he was guarding it. She slowly turned her palm up, fingers open, the way she had done years ago with frightened working dogs in field tents and dust storms. She did not reach for the vest. She reached for the floor beside him. "You brought something in," she whispered. "Didn't you?" The canine stared at her. His body shook again. Then he let his head drop against the tile. The room went silent. Hannah looked over her shoulder. "I need oxygen, warm blankets, saline, and call emergency veterinary support now." Sloan stepped into the trauma lane. His white coat perfect. His face hard. "This is a hospital. Nurse Cole, not an animal clinic. That dog is in shock. That dog is a liability. That dog followed a critical patient into our ER. And you will not turn my trauma bay into a kennel." Hannah looked toward Trauma Bay 3. Through the open curtain, she saw the unconscious man on the table. Male, early 40s. Mud on his boots. A strip of military-style webbing caught around one wrist. Paramedics were cutting away his jacket. The canine lifted his head again. He stared at the man. Then he made a sound Hannah had heard only a few times in her life. Not a bark, not a growl. A handler call, low, desperate, and full of panic. Hannah's chest tightened. "He's with that patient," she said. Sloane's eyes narrowed. "You don't know that. He came straight to his bay. He is an uncontrolled animal in a civilian emergency department. He is a military working dog." Sloane glanced at the torn vest. "You don't know that either." Hannah touched the edge of the collar, careful not to move the dog's paw from the vest. Her fingers found a scratched metal tag. One word was stamped deep into it. Ranger. Under it was a number, almost hidden by blood and rain. Hannah did not read the rest aloud. Not yet. Ranger's eyes fluttered. His breathing hitched. That ended the argument for her. "Blankets." Hannah said again. Sharper now. "Oxygen. Someone call veterinary emergency. If we wait until animal control gets here, he dies. On this floor." No one moved. Then a young nurse named Emily broke from the crowd and grabbed blankets from the warmer. Sloane pointed at her. Emily, stop. Emily froze. Hannah did not. She slid a folded blanket beside Ranger's body and used it to slow the heat loss from the wet floor. She checked the bleeding without uncovering the vest. Ranger's lips pulled back once. But he did not bite. That's it. Hannah whispered, I'm not stealing your mission. His eyes changed. Just a little. But Hannah saw it. Trust did not arrive all at once. It arrived one breath at a time. Ranger let her touch his shoulder. Behind her, Sloane's voice dropped cold. Nurse Cole. Stand up. Hannah kept one hand on Ranger's ribs. No. The word landed harder than a shout. Sloane stared at her like he had never heard it from someone wearing scrubs. Excuse me. No. Hannah repeated, not while he's crashing. Stay with me until the end. Because what Ranger was protecting was bigger than one wounded handler. One quiet nurse. Or one frightened ER. And if you're listening tonight, tell me what city you're listening from. I want to see how far Ranger's story travels. 3 hours earlier, Hannah Cole had been trying to finish a double shift without being noticed. That was how she survived State 9. Bartholomew Regional. She was good at the work. Too good. Some people said she remembered allergies after one glance at a chart. She noticed when a veteran flinched before a blood pressure cuff touched his arm. She could hear a change in breathing from across a room, but she did not talk much. That made people underestimate her. Doctor. Sloane liked nurses who smiled, followed orders, and made him feel like the room belonged to him. Hannah did none of those things. She was polite. She was calm. She did the job. But she never performed fear for him. That bothered him. At 7:40 that evening, he had corrected her in front of 2 interns because she questioned a discharge order for an elderly Marine with chest pain. Your job is to carry out treatment, Sloane said, not looking up from the chart. Not rewrite it. Hannah kept her voice level. His pain changed when he walked. He needs another look. The Marine, Mr. Alvarez, sat on the bed with his jacket folded in his lap. He looked embarrassed to be trouble. Sloane gave a thin smile. Nurse Cole has a habit of collecting strays. The interns laughed because Sloane expected them to. Hannah did not answer. She checked Mr. Alvarez again. She called cardiology herself. 20 minutes later, the second test showed what the first one missed. Sloane never apologized. He simply moved on. That was the rhythm of the hospital. Quiet people fixed loud people's mistakes. Loud people took credit. The night got longer. 10:18. Rain had turned the ambulance bay into a silver blur. Hannah was restocking Trauma 2 when the radio cracked. Inbound. Male. Unknown identity. Vehicle found off access road near Old Service Gate. Unconscious. Possible head injury. Possible blunt trauma. ETA 4 minutes. Sloane appeared from the physician workroom. Already irritated. Another accident in this weather. The first ambulance arrived at 1024. The patient came in soaked and gray-faced. He had a deep bruise along his temple, torn knuckles, and dirt under his nails. His jacket was military green, but not uniform. A small patch had been ripped from the chest, leaving only dark threads. Hannah walked beside the stretcher. What do we know? She asked. Paramedic James Ortiz shook his head. Found near the contractor access road behind the hospital campus. No wallet. No phone. He kept saying one word before he dropped out. What word? Ortiz looked uncomfortable. Ranger. Hannah's hands paused for half a second. Sloane noticed. Problem. No. Hannah said, but there was. Because the patient's right wrist had a strip of broken canine lead wrapped around it. Not a pet leash. A working lead. Hannah leaned closer as they transferred him. Sir. Can you hear me? The man did not respond. His pulse was weak. His breathing was rough but steady. Hannah helped cut away the outer layer of his jacket. Under it, taped to his side, was a torn piece of black nylon. It looked like part of a tactical harness. Sloane glanced at it. Trash. Bag it. Hannah picked it up carefully. This may belong with the patient's property. It belongs out of my trauma bay. She looked at the unconscious man's hands. The knuckles were scraped raw, as if he had crawled across gravel. His left palm had dog hair stuck to the blood. Tan hair, black-tipped. Hannah felt something old move under her ribs. A memory of a tent in the dark. A handler refusing morphine until someone checked his dog. A Malinois lying with his head against a medic's boot, guarding a man everyone else had already counted out. She pushed the memory down. This was not then. This was a civilian ER. Different walls, different rules, but the same look in a wounded man's hand. At 10:31. The ambulance bay doors opened again. Not for a stretcher, for Ranger, now, kneeling beside him on the tile. Hannah understood the sequence. The man had been brought in first. Ranger had followed. Somehow, injured and bleeding. The dog had tracked the ambulance here through rain and traffic and panic. That was not aggression. That was duty. His temperature is dropping. Hannah said, "Emily, I need those blankets." Emily looked at Sloane. Sloane said, "If you assist her, I will write both of you up." Emily's face went pale. Hannah took the blankets herself. Ranger's body jerked when she tucked them near his side. His teeth flashed. A guard lifted his restraint pole. Hannah snapped, "Do not." The guard hesitated. Sloane stepped closer. "This animal has already threatened staff." He warned staff away from the vest. Hannah said, "That is different. You are assigning human motives to an animal." "No. I am reading trained behavior." The words came out before she could stop them. Sloane heard the difference. His expression sharpened. "And where did you learn to read trained military animals?" Nurse Cole. Hannah kept her eyes on Ranger. "Around? Not good enough." Ranger's breathing hitched again. His head rolled toward Trauma Bay 3. The unconscious man inside groaned. Ranger tried to rise. His front legs failed. Hannah put one hand lightly against his chest. "No. No. Stay down." Ranger fought her for 1 second. Then he stopped. Not because she was stronger, because he recognized the tone. Sloane saw that too. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. Then anger covered it. "This ends now," he said. "Security. Remove the dog from the department." Hannah looked up. "He will die if you drag him outside. Then animal control can make that determination." "No." Sloane's jaw tightened. "You do not get to tell me no in my ER." Hannah stood slowly. Rainwater from Ranger's coat had soaked the knees of her scrubs. Blood marked one sleeve. She was not tall, and she did not raise her voice. But something in the trauma lane changed when she stood between Sloane and the dog. This patient came in saying Ranger's name. She said, "This dog followed him here, with injuries of his own. He is guarding a vest that may contain property. Identification or evidence. You remove him without proper transfer, and you may be destroying the only link between that man and what happened to him." Sloane's face went still, too still. Hannah noticed. She had seen guilty men look calmer than innocent ones. Sloane turned to the security guard. "Take the vest first." Ranger heard the word. Or maybe he saw the guard's hand lower toward the straps. The dog surged up with a sound that froze the whole ER. Not a wild attack. A warning. His injured body shook. But his teeth were between the guard and the vest. The guard stumbled back. "I'm not touching that thing." Sloane looked furious. "Get a control loop." Hannah stepped in front of Ranger again. "Nobody touches the vest." Sloane stared at her. "You are 1 sentence away from suspension." "Then write the sentence." The waiting area had gone quiet. Nurses stood behind counters. A resident held a roll of gauze without moving. Even the monitors in Trauma Bay 3 seemed louder now. Then the unconscious man inside the bay made a rough sound. Ranger's ears lifted. The dog turned his head toward him and whined. Hannah looked through the curtain. The man's hand twitched against the sheet. His lips moved. She stepped closer and listened. One word came out, cracked and almost gone. Guard. Ranger dropped his paw harder over the vest. Hannah felt the hair rise on the back of her neck. Sloane heard it too, for 1 second. No one spoke. Then Sloane said, "Security. Remove Nurse Cole from the animal. Now." The guard shifted his grip on the restraint pole. Another guard came in from the side door. Emily whispered, "Hannah." Hannah looked down at Ranger. His eyes were on her now, not begging, asking. She lowered one hand, palm open. "I know," she whispered. "You didn't come here to be saved." Ranger's breathing trembled. "You came here to finish the job." The two guards moved closer, and behind them, "Doctor." Sloane reached for Hannah's badge. "Doctor." Sloane's fingers closed around Hannah's badge before the guards reached her. The plastic clip snapped against her scrub pocket. For a moment. Nobody moved. Hannah looked down at his hand, then back at his face. She did not pull away. She did not give him the satisfaction of a struggle. Ranger did it for her. The Malinois lifted his head and growled so low the sound seemed to come from the floor itself. Both security guards stopped. Sloane's hand froze with the badge half twisted in his grip. Hannah spoke softly. Without looking away from him, "Let go of my badge." "Doctor." Sloane's eyes flicked toward Ranger. He released the badge as if he had chosen to, not because an injured dog had warned him. "You are making a scene." He said, "No." Hannah said, "He is." She nodded toward Ranger. "He is telling us where the danger is." Sloane's mouth tightened. "You are not a handler. You are not military police. You are not a veterinarian. You are a nurse." The word nurse came out like an insult. The waiting room heard it. The interns heard it. Emily heard it. Hannah had heard worse in louder places. But this time, something in the room shifted. It was not only about her. It was about Ranger trembling on the tile. It was about the unconscious man in Trauma Bay 3. It was about a dog who had dragged himself through rain to guard something nobody wanted to name. Hannah kept her voice calm. "Yes, I am a nurse. And right now, I am the only person in this room treating the living thing in front of me." Sloane stepped closer. "You are treating an animal in violation of hospital policy. I am preventing death until proper transfer. You are contaminating an emergency department. Then isolate the lane. Bring veterinary support through the ambulance entrance. Keep waiting room patients away. We have done harder things for less reason." Sloane gave a short laugh. "Listen to yourself. You think you are running this department now." Ranger's breathing hitched. His body shook again under the wet blanket. Hannah knelt beside him immediately. That simple act enraged Sloane more than any argument. "Stand up when I am speaking to you." Hannah checked Ranger's gums. Still pale. Better than before, but not safe. "Emily." To get another warm blanket. Emily glanced at Sloane. Sloane pointed at her. "Do not move." Emily stayed frozen. Hannah reached for the blanket herself. The young resident, Dr. Patel, stepped forward before he seemed to realize he had done it. "I can get it." Sloane turned on him. "You can return to Trauma 3 and remember whose license is responsible for this department." Patel stopped, shame burning across his face. Hannah saw it. Ranger saw the movement. His ears twitched. But he did not growl at Patel. He only growled when Sloane moved. That mattered. Hannah looked at the guard holding the restraint pole. "You see that?" The guard swallowed. "See what?" "He is not warning everyone. Only certain hands." Sloane said, "That is enough." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out his phone. "I am calling animal control directly. If this dog bites anyone, it will be on you." Hannah's jaw tightened. "He has not bitten anyone. He threatened staff. He guarded property connected to an unconscious patient. You do not know that. I know enough not to destroy it." Sloane's eyes sharpened again at the word destroy. There it was. A tiny reaction. Almost nothing. But Hannah had spent half her life watching for almost nothing. A breath held too long. A hand closing before a lie. A man getting angry at the wrong word. Sloan did not fear Ranger. He feared the vest. From Trauma Bay 3. Masonvale groaned again. Ranger heard it and tried to rise. Hannah placed one hand against his shoulder. Stay. It was not a command barked by a handler. It was quiet, steady, familiar. Ranger resisted for half a breath. Then he stayed. Doctor/Incubus. Patel stared at her. How did you do that? Hannah did not answer. Sloan did. She got lucky. Ranger turned his head toward Sloan and showed his teeth. Not lucky, Hannah thought. Recognized. She bent closer to Ranger's collar. The metal tag had twisted under the black strap. Blood and rainwater covered the lower half. She needed to clean it. But she could not risk moving his neck too much. Emily, Hannah said, keeping her voice low. Gauza. Emily looked at Sloan again. This time, she moved. Sloan said her name once. Sharp as a slap. Emily did not stop. She crossed the trauma lane and placed clean gauze into Hannah's hand. Her fingers shook, but her eyes were clear. Hannah nodded once. Thank you. It was a small rebellion. In hospitals like St. Leader's, Bartholomew, small rebellions were how truth stayed alive. Hannah wiped the tag carefully. Ranger watched her hand. His nostrils flared. He did not stop her because she did not touch the vest. She respected the line he had drawn. The first side of the tag was simple. Ranger MWD Knieret. Retired military working dog. The second side was harder to read. It had a phone number etched in small numbers. Under that was a short code. Ghost. 7. Med shield hold. Hannah's fingers went still. For 1 second, the ER disappeared. She was back under canvas. Hearing rain hit a field tent roof. A radio voice repeating a call sign no one used, unless things had gone very wrong. Ghost was not a pet name. It was not decoration. It was the kind of tag used when a handler wanted one person found if the dog survived and the man did not. Her throat tightened. Sloan saw the change in her face. What is it? He asked. Hannah covered the tag with her palm. Emergency contact. Give it to me. No. The word was quieter this time. More dangerous. Sloan extended his hand. That collar is property connected to an animal incident in my hospital. It is identification connected to a veteran patient. You do not know he is a veteran. Hannah looked through the curtain at Mason's scarred hands. The broken working lead. The ripped patch mark on his jacket. And the dog trying to crawl to him. I know, she said. Sloan stepped closer. Nurse Cole. You are inventing authority you do not have. And you are avoiding a phone number that could identify an unconscious man. That landed. Several staff members looked at Sloan. He felt the room tilt and hated it. Fine, he said. Read the number to registration. They can log it. Hannah's hand stayed over the tag. I will call it. No. You will not. Then Dr. Patel can call it. Patel looked startled. Sloan turned toward him. Doctor. Patel will return to his patient. The patient ranger followed here. Hannah said. Sloan's face hardened. You keep saying that dog's name like it gives you permission. Hannah met his eyes. It gives him identity. The words were simple. They cut deeper than she expected. For a second, Sloan had nothing ready. Then he smiled in the way powerful men smiled when they remembered the room still feared them. Everyone listen carefully, he said, raising his voice. Nurse Cole has chosen to disobey direct medical command, interfere with security procedure, and place staff at risk over an animal. Document everything. Every minute this continues will be reviewed. The threat rolled through the ER. People looked down. People stepped back. People protected their jobs. Hannah did not blame them. Jobs fed children. Jobs paid rent. Jobs kept health insurance alive. But Ranger had no job to protect. He only had a mission. The guard with a pole shifted again. Doctor. Animal control says 20 minutes. Good. Sloan said. Until then, Secure the vest. The guard hesitated. The dog does not like that. It is a dog. Ranger's ears flattened. Hannah's voice dropped. Do not reach for it. Sloane looked at the guard. Do it. The guard lowered the pole. Not toward Ranger's neck, but toward the front strap of the vest. Ranger moved faster than an injured animal should have been able to move. His jaws snapped shut on the metal pole. The guard shouted and stumbled back. Ranger did not chase him. He did not lunge for flesh. He clamped down once, twisted the pole away from the vest, then released it. The pole clattered against the tile. The ER went dead silent. Hannah's heart pounded, not because she was afraid of Ranger, because he had just proved her right. He didn't attack you, she said to the guard. The guard stared at the pole. He took it out of my hands. Because you reached for the vest? Sloane pointed at Ranger. That is an aggressive animal. That is a trained dog protecting evidence. You do not get to call it evidence. You are trying very hard not to. Sloane's eyes flashed. That was the first time Hannah saw real anger break through his polish. Enough, he said. Badge. Now. Hannah did not move. Sloane reached for her again. Ranger growled. This time. Sloane did not stop. He snatched the badge from Hannah's pocket and ripped it free so hard the clip tore fabric from her scrubs. Emily gasped. The sound hurt more than the torn pocket. Sloane held up the badge for the room to see. You are suspended. Pending review. Hannah stood still. Her badge swung from Sloane's fingers. The photograph on it was 4 years old. Hannah looked younger there. Less tired. More willing to believe quiet work would be enough. Sloane dropped it into his coat pocket. You will leave this department, he said. Security will escort you to the staff exit. You are not to touch that dog, that vest, that patient, or any hospital equipment. Ranger tried to get up again. This time, Hannah knelt fast and put both hands near his face, not holding him down, just giving him a point to focus on. No, she whispered. Don't spend it on him. Ranger's breath shook against her palm. Save it. The word changed him. Not because it was magic, because someone finally understood he had something left to do. Sloane looked at the guards. Remove her. One guard stepped toward Hannah. He looked miserable. I'm sorry, he muttered. Hannah believed him. Then Mason's monitor alarm changed inside Trauma Bay. 3. Doctor? Patel turned. Pressures dropping. Sloane cursed under his breath and looked toward the bay. For one precious second, everyone's attention shifted. Ranger lifted his head. His eyes locked on the collar tag under Hannah's fingers. Then he nudged her wrist. A weak push. Once. Then again. Hannah looked down. The emergency number was still partly covered by her palm. Ranger nudged her again, then turned his eyes toward Mason. A clear message. Call. Hannah did not have her badge anymore. She did not have permission. She did not have protection, but she had the number, and she had the dog's trust. She reached into her scrub pocket for her personal phone. Sloane turned back just as she unlocked it. What are you doing? Hannah read the number off the tag and typed fast. Sloane lunged forward. Give me that phone. Ranger rose on shaking legs. The whole ER held its breath. Hannah pressed call. The line rang once, twice. A man answered, Renz. Hannah closed her eyes for half a second. The voice was military. Controlled. Alert, she said. This is Hannah Cole, emergency nurse at St. Bartholomew Regional. I have an unconscious male patient, possible former operator, and a retired MWD named Ranger guarding a tactical vest. The collar tag says Ghost, 7. The line went silent. Then the man's voice changed. Say that again. Ghost, 7. Med shield hold. Behind her, Sloane went pale. Not much, but enough. Commander Luke Rains spoke each word like he was already moving. Do not let anyone take that vest. Do not let hospital security separate that dog from the patient. Who is trying to remove it? Hannah looked at Sloane. Sloane stared back with murder in his eyes. She answered. The chief of emergency medicine, Rains said. Name. Dr. Everett Sloan. Another silence. Then Rain said, Nurse Cole. Listen carefully. That dog is not evidence of a problem. That dog may be the only reason we still have a witness. I am 12 minutes out. Hannah looked down at Ranger. His eyes were closing, but his paw still covered the vest. I don't know if he has 12 minutes, she said. Then keep him alive. Sloan grabbed for the phone. Hannah pulled back. Ranger barked once. It was the first full bark he had given since entering the ER. It cracked through the room like a command. Sloan stopped. Rains heard it through the phone. His voice softened. But only for a second. Was that Ranger? Yes. Put me on speaker. Hannah tapped the screen. The ER listened. Commander Rains said, Ranger. Hold. The dog's ears lifted. His body stilled. The command did not calm him completely. He was too hurt for that. But it reached a part of him deeper than pain. Then Rains said, Nurse Cole. I don't know who you are, but he accepted you. That means something. Do not leave him. Hannah's throat tightened. Sloan said, This is a hospital matter. You have no authority here. Rains answered through the speaker. Doctor, by the time I walk through those doors, you will wish that were true. The line cut. For the first time all night, Doctor, Sloan had no immediate answer. Then he looked at security and pointed at Hannah. Take her out before they get here. The guards moved. Ranger tried to stand between them and Hannah. His legs shook. His paw slid in his own blood. He almost fell. Hannah caught him before he hit the tile. Easy, she whispered. Ranger leaned into her. The guard stopped again. Not because of policy, because nobody in that room wanted to be the man who dragged a bleeding military dog away from the only nurse keeping him alive. Sloan's voice turned sharp and ugly. Are all of you forgetting who signs your evaluations? No one answered, but no one moved either. Hannah looked at Emily. Help me get him on the blanket. Emily rushed forward. Dr. Patel followed. Together. They slid the warm blanket under Ranger's body without touching the vest. Ranger allowed it. His eyes stayed on Hannah's face. Sloan watched his department disobey him one person at a time. His calm mask was gone now. You think Navy men coming through that door will save your job? He said to Hannah. Hannah looked down at Ranger. Then, toward Mason's trauma bay. No, she said. I think he already did his. Outside. Beyond the rain-streaked ambulance doors, headlights turned into the emergency drive. Not ambulance lights. Not police lights. Two dark vehicles pulled hard against the curb. The first door opened before the engine stopped. A man in a dark jacket stepped into the rain. Commander Luke Rains had arrived, and Ranger, half conscious on the ER floor, lifted his head like he had heard a ghost come home. Commander Luke Rains entered the ER like a man who did not need to raise his voice. Rainwater ran from his jacket. His boots left dark marks on the polished floor. Behind him came two men in civilian clothes, with military posture. They were not wearing uniforms. They did not need to. Every person in the room understood they were not hospital visitors. Dr. Sloan moved first. This is a restricted emergency department, he said. You cannot just walk in here. Rains did not look at him. His eyes went straight to the floor. To Ranger. The change in his face was small. But Hannah saw it. The hard command mask cracked for half a second. Grief came through. Then control returned. Ranger, he said. The Malinois lifted his head. His ears came up. His tail did not wag. He was too weak for joy. But his eyes found Rains. And something in his body settled. Rains took one step forward. Ranger growled. The sound shocked the room more than his earlier warning. One of the men behind Rains stopped with his hand half raised. Rains stopped too. He did not look angry. He looked hurt. Easy. Boy, he said. Ranger did not bare his teeth at him. He did not lung. He only shifted his paw tighter over the vest and leaned his injured body against Hannah's knees. That was when Rains looked at her, really looked, at the blood on her sleeve, at the torn badge pocket, at the way Ranger had chosen her as the wall between himself and the room, You're Hannah Cole, he asked. Yes. You called me. Yes. Rains looked at the empty place where her badge should have been. Where is your hospital ID? Sloane answered before she could. Confiscated due to dangerous misconduct. Rains turned his head slowly. Now he looked at Sloane. The room seemed to lose temperature. Confiscated. Rains repeated. Sloane straightened. Nurse Cole was suspended for violating hospital policy, interfering with security, and treating an animal inside a human emergency department. She kept him alive. Rains said, she created a liability event. She kept him alive. The second time, the words were not a reply. They were a warning. Sloane's mouth tightened. This hospital is not under your command. No. Rains said, but that dog is connected to a federal military investigation. And your unconscious patient is Mason Vale. The name moved through the room like electricity. Dr. Patel looked toward Trauma Bay 3. He's Navy. Rains did not take his eyes off Sloane. Former Navy. Former SEAL. Former knee handler. And the dog on your floor was his working partner. Hannah felt Ranger's weight press harder into her leg. Mason Vale, now the broken lead. The ripped patch. And the word Ranger made sense. Sloane recovered quickly. Too quickly. If Mr. Vale has military history, then all the more reason to handle this through proper channels. Hospital security has been attempting to secure the animal's vest as property. Ranger growled again. Rains glanced down. Not property, he said. Not yet. Sloane folded his arms. Then what is it? Rains looked at Hannah. Has anyone touched the vest? No. Hannah said. They tried. His eyes sharpened. Who? Hannah looked at the security guard, then back at Sloane. Under Doktor. Sloane's order. Rains looked at the guard. Did you touch it? The guard swallowed. No. Sir. Dog stopped me. Good dog. One of Rains's men murmured. Ranger's ears flicked. Sloane snapped. This is absurd. A hospital cannot be held hostage by an injured dog. Hannah's voice was quiet. He is not holding us hostage. Sloane turned on her. You are no longer employed here. Do not speak as staff. The room went still. There it was. Not suspension. Not review. Not pending. Fired. Emily's face crumpled. Patel looked down. The guard stared at the floor. Hannah felt the words hit, but she did not let them move her body. She had learned long ago that some men watched for collapse. They wanted tears because tears proved power. She gave him none. Sloane reached into his pocket and pulled out her badge. He held it between two fingers. For cause, he said. Effective immediately. Hannah looked at the badge, then at Ranger. The dog was struggling to breathe. That made the choice simple. Then, as a civilian, Hannah said, I am still telling you he needs veterinary support and transfer stability before anyone moves him. Sloane smiled. Security. Escort. Miss. Cole out. Ranger tried to stand. This time he made it. Barely. His legs shook. And blood spotted the blanket under him. But he got between Hannah and the guards. His head lowered. His teeth showed. Hannah touched his shoulder. Ranger. No. He did not move away. His body was failing. But his decision was clear. The first guard backed up. Doctor, I'm not doing this. Sloane stared at him. You are refusing a direct instruction. I'm refusing to drag a wounded military dog off a nurse. No one breathed. That was the second small rebellion of the night. Rains stepped forward, slow enough for Ranger to see every movement. Ranger, he said. Hold. Ranger's eyes flicked to him. Hold. Rains repeated. The command reached him, but Ranger still did not step away from Hannah. Rains looked at her again. What did you say to him? I didn't command him. Then why won't he leave you? Hannah swallowed. Because I didn't try to take the vest. One of Renz's men, a broad-shouldered man with close-cropped gray hair, spoke for the first time. That tracks. Sloane looked between them. You people are treating this dog like a witness, Rains said. Doctor, that may be the smartest thing you've said tonight. Sloane's face went red. Hannah lowered herself beside Ranger. He's crashing again. The words cut through the tension. Ranger's front legs bent. Hannah caught his chest before he dropped fully. Rains stepped forward, then stopped when Ranger's paw moved back over the vest. He won't let me near it, Rains said softly. He knows you, Hannah said, but he doesn't know what happened after Mason went down. Rains's jaw flexed at Mason's name. Hannah saw the pain he was hiding. The commander had not come for an object. He had come for 2 old teammates and found both of them broken. I need to check his breathing, Hannah said. Sloane snapped. You are not authorized to touch any patient or animal in this hospital. Rains turned toward him. I am authorizing her to assist with my military working dog until veterinary support arrives. You cannot authorize medical activity in my hospital. Then I am asking a civilian who already stabilized him to keep doing what saved his life. Sloane gave a cold laugh. Do you hear yourself? You are exposing this hospital to massive liability. No, Rains said. You are. He took a step closer. His voice stayed low, but every word carried. You attempted to separate a retired military working dog from his incapacitated handler. You ordered staff to seize a vest the dog was actively guarding. You removed the badge of the only nurse who recognized the situation. And you did all of this before making one call to identify Mason Vale. Sloane said, I had an unidentified trauma patient and an aggressive dog. You had a veteran, his canine, and a tag with an emergency contact. Sloane's eyes flashed. You do not know what happened before you arrived. Rains looked at the phone in Hannah's hand. No, but I know what you did when you heard the code. Sloane's face tightened. Hannah saw it again, the same fear as before. Rains saw it too. He turned to one of his men. Dawes, contact base legal and tell them to preserve all hospital security footage from the ambulance entrance. Trauma 3. And this corridor. Starting 2 hours before arrival, Dawes nodded and stepped back with his phone. Sloane said, You have no authority to demand internal hospital footage. Rains looked at him. Then don't call it a demand. Call it a warning before a subpoena. For the first time, Sloane stepped back. Not much. Enough, the ER staff noticed. Power had shifted. Not fully, not safely, but enough for people to breathe. Hannah used the moment. Emily, I need another blanket roll. Patel. Ask veterinary emergency for ETA. Tell them suspected blunt trauma. Blood loss. Shock. Possible rib injury. Retired MWD. Reactive around vest, but controlled with handler commands. Patel looked at Sloane out of habit. Then he looked at Rains. Then Ranger. Then Hannah. I'm on it, he said. Sloane barked. Dr. Patel. Patel stopped at the doorway. His voice shook, but he spoke. With respect? Doctor. Sloane. The dog is alive because she ignored you. The words landed hard. Emily moved before Sloane could answer. The whole room began moving around Hannah again. But carefully. Not chaos. Not panic. A quiet circle of purpose. Ranger's breathing eased under her hand. Rains crouched several feet away, low enough not to tower over the dog. Can he be moved? Not yet, Hannah said. He needs stabilization first. And if that vest is what he thinks it is, moving it wrong could set him off. What does he think it is? Hannah looked at the paw over the torn nylon. His last order. Rains closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they were wet. Yeah, he said. That sounds like him. From Trauma Bay 3. Mason Vale groaned. This time, the sound became a word. Ranger. The dog's whole body changed. He tried to crawl. Hannah held him gently. No, not yet. Ranger fought her. Rains shifted forward. Ranger. Hold. Ranger kept struggling. Then Hannah leaned close to his ear. Mason's here, she whispered. You found him. You did it. Ranger stopped. The room fell quiet again. Rain stared at Hannah. What did you say? I told him the truth. No. Before that. His voice was careful now. How did you know to say it that way? Hannah did not answer. Sloane did. From behind them. She likes pretending she knows more than everyone else. Rains did not look away from Hannah. Maybe she does. The air changed again. This time, Hannah felt exposed. Not by Sloane. She was used to men like Sloane. But by Rains? Because he was watching her like he had heard an old radio call through static. Ranger nudged her wrist. She looked down. His paw was still over the vest. But the edge had shifted when he tried to crawl. Under the torn fabric. Hannah saw a seam that did not match the rest of the stitching. It was too thick, too fresh. She leaned closer. Sloane saw her looking. His voice cracked like a whip. Do not touch that vest. Rains's head turned slowly. Why not? Sloane hesitated. 1 second too long. Then he said, because the dog is reactive. Hannah looked at Ranger. No, that's not why. She did not touch the seam. She only pointed, Commander. This stitching is new. Rains moved closer. Careful. Ranger watched him, but did not growl this time, because Hannah's hand stayed on the dog's shoulder. Rains studied the vest from a distance. His face hardened. That vest was cut open. He said. Sloane said. It was damaged in whatever accident brought them here. No. Hannah said. The outer tear is from trauma. This seam was opened and closed by hand. Dawes returned from the hallway. Base legal is on. They want the vest preserved. Sloane's voice rose. This is still my hospital. Rains stood. No. Doctor. He said. This is now a scene involving a wounded veteran. A retired military working dog. Possible evidence tampering. And a fired nurse who seems to be the only person here who didn't try to bury the truth. Sloane's eyes cut toward Hannah. The hatred there was naked now. He knew the room was slipping away. So he reached for the only power he still had. Fine. He said. You want the vest preserved. Then Ms. Cole leaves now. She is terminated. She has no role here. She is contaminating the situation. Ranger growled. Hannah kept her hand on him. Easy. Sloane pointed at the staff exit. Out. Rains looked at Hannah. There was a question in his eyes. But he did not ask it. Hannah knew why. If she stayed, Sloane would claim she interfered. If she left, Ranger might crash. If anyone else touched the vest, the dog could spend the last of his strength fighting them. Ranger solved it. He pushed his nose under Hannah's torn badge pocket. Then he turned his head toward Mason's Bay. Then back to her. A weak. Deliberate motion. Rains saw it. He's assigning her. Dawes said quietly. Sloane snapped. The dog is not assigning anyone. Dawes looked at him. You never worked with one. Did you? Sloane had no answer. Rains stepped closer to Hannah and spoke low enough that only she heard. I can't force the hospital to employ you in the next 10 seconds. But I can request you remain as a civilian witness, and the only person Ranger is allowing close. Hannah looked at Ranger. His eyes were half closed. He needs a vet. She said, 7 minutes. Patel called from the desk. Veterinary emergency is 7 minutes out. Hannah nodded. Then he needs 7 minutes. Rains turned to Sloane. She stays until transfer. Sloane laughed once. Or what? Rains looked toward the ambulance doors. Outside. Another dark vehicle pulled up. 2 uniformed military police stepped out into the rain with a local officer beside them. Rains looked back at Sloane. Or this becomes much harder for you to explain. Sloane's face drained. The ER doors opened again. Cold rain air rushed in. Ranger lifted his head at the sound. Then looked past everyone toward Trauma Bay 3. Inside. Mason Vale's hand moved off the sheet. His fingers curled once, as if reaching for a lead that was no longer there. Hannah saw Ranger trying to rise again. This time, she did not hold him down with fear. She leaned close and gave him a promise. Wait for him. She whispered. We're going to bring him back to you. Ranger stared at her. Then, slowly, painfully, he lowered his head onto her knee. Rains watched the dog choose. And Dr. Sloan watched the fired nurse become the one person in the ER no one could remove. The veterinary emergency team arrived through the ambulance doors 7 minutes later. They came in fast, but not loud. A woman in a rain-dark jacket led them. She carried a trauma bag in one hand and a folded stretcher under the other arm. Her name badge read Dr. Leah Marsh. Her eyes went to Ranger first, then to Hannah, then to the vest under his paw. I was told retired military working dog. Doctor, Marsh said. Hannah nodded. Belgian Malinois. Name is Ranger. Blunt trauma. Blood loss. Shock signs. Possible rib injury. Reactive only when someone reaches for the vest. Doctor, Marsh crouched several feet away. Has he bitten anyone? No. Has anyone tried to take the vest? Yes. Ranger's lips lifted slightly at the memory. Doctor, Marsh looked at the restraint pole on the floor. I see. Sloan stepped forward. Doctor, I need this animal removed from my ER immediately. Doctor, Marsh did not look at him. And I need the animal alive before he is moved. A few nurses glanced at one another. Sloan heard the small shift in the room. His jaw tightened. Rains stood behind Hannah. Close enough to help. Far enough not to crowd Ranger. Can you stabilize him here? For transfer. Yes. For surgery? No. But he is not going anywhere until his breathing is steadier. Hannah kept her palm against Ranger's shoulder. He trusts slow movement. Do not touch the vest first. Doctor. Marsh nodded. Understood. She did not talk down to Hannah. She did not ask why a fired nurse was kneeling in blood beside a military dog. She simply accepted the person Ranger trusted. That alone made Hannah's throat tighten. For the next few minutes, the ER became quiet in a different way. Not frozen, focused. Dr. Marsh checked Ranger's breathing and pulse. Hannah helped position the blanket without pulling the vest. Emily handed supplies. Patel updated Mason's status from Trauma Bay 3. Rains watched every movement. Sloan watched the room slipping beyond his control. Ranger endured it. He flinched when Dr. Marsh touched his ribs. He trembled when she checked the wound near his shoulder. But he did not snap. Every time fear rose in him, Hannah lowered her voice. Still here. She whispered. Nobody's taking it. Ranger's paw stayed over the vest. Doctor. Marsh finally sat back on her heels. He can be transferred after we stabilize him a little more. But the vest is a problem. Sloan seized on it. Exactly. Remove it. Doctor. Marsh looked at him for the first time. That is not what I said. It is causing the animal distress. No. Hannah said, people reaching for it are causing distress. Rain stepped closer. We need to examine that seam. Ranger growled softly. Rain stopped. Hannah looked down at the dog. Ranger. His eyes moved to her. She pointed to the seam. Not touching it. You've been guarding it all night. She said, I know, but we need to see it now. Ranger's breathing shook. Hannah moved her hand to the floor beside the vest. Not taking. Looking. Ranger watched her fingers. His paw did not move. Doctor, Marsh said softly. He may not understand the difference. He does, Hannah said. Sloan scoffed. This is ridiculous. Ranger growled without looking at him. The room went silent. Rains looked at Sloan. Interesting timing. Sloan's face hardened. Do not start that nonsense. Hannah ignored both men. She leaned closer to Ranger. Mason is here. She whispered. You got him here. But if that vest tells us who hurt him, you have to let us help. Ranger's eyes flicked toward Trauma Bay. 3. Mason lay behind the curtain, pale and still under hospital lights. Ranger made a quiet sound in his throat. Then, inch by inch, he lifted his paw. Nobody breathed. Hannah did not rush. She placed her hand lightly on the edge of the vest. Ranger watched. No growl. Rains moved closer. Ranger's ears tilted back. Hannah said, "Hold." The word was quiet. Ranger held. Rains looked at her. The question was in his eyes again. But he saved it. "Doctor." Marsh used trauma shears to trim the torn outer strap. Hannah kept one hand on Ranger, one hand near the vest. Rains leaned over the thick seam and studied the stitching. "This is not factory," he said. Dawes handed him a small folding tool. Sloane stepped forward fast. "You cannot cut into that. It may be contaminated evidence." Rains looked up. "Now, it is evidence." Sloane stopped. "Too late." Patel's eyes narrowed. Emily looked at Hannah. Even the guard at the wall raised his head. Sloane tried to recover. "I mean, if you are claiming it is evidence, then it should not be opened in an uncontrolled area," Rains said. "You ordered your guard to take it with a restraint pole. I was securing a hazard. You were securing a vest before anyone could identify the handler." Sloane's mouth opened. No words came out. Ranger gave a weak huff. It almost sounded like agreement. Rains cut the first stitch. Ranger trembled but did not move. Hannah kept whispering, "Easy. Still yours. Still your mission." The seam opened slowly. Inside the lining was a narrow pocket that should not have been there. Rains reached in with gloved fingers and pulled out a small black memory card sealed inside torn plastic. Wrapped around it was a blood-marked cloth patch. The patch had no official logo. No real unit insignia. Just a stitched gray shape and one word in faded thread, "Ghost." Rains's face changed. Dawes muttered, "Damn." Hannah looked at the patch. Then at Ranger. Ranger's eyes were fixed on it. Not like a dog looking at fabric, like a soldier watching a flag pulled from the dirt. Sloane said, "That could be anything." Rains did not answer him. He looked at Dawes. "Field viewer." Dawes opened a hard case and pulled out a small, secured device. "We should preserve chain of custody." "We will," Rains said. "But I need to know if Mason is in danger because of what is on this." Sloane moved closer. "You will not play that in my ER." Rains looked at him. "You are welcome to step away. I am ordering you. You are not ordering me." The words landed clean. No shouting. No drama. Just the end of Sloane's control. Dawes inserted the card. The screen lit. At first, the video shook so badly, Hannah could barely make sense of it. Rain. Gravel. Floodlights. A fenced access road behind the hospital campus. A man's breathing close to the microphone. Then Mason Vale's voice. Strained but clear. "Ranger." "Hold." The real Ranger lifted his head at the sound. His ears came forward. On the screen, Mason moved through the dark, with Ranger at his side. Ahead of them stood two men in black jackets, marked with the private contractor name, Apex MedShield. Hannah felt Sloane shift behind her. She did not look away from the screen. Mason's voice came again. "This test is not authorized. You do not run dog response trials on hospital property with civilian routes active." One of the contractor men laughed. "You're retired. Val, you don't give orders here." Another voice came from off-camera. Calm, polished, familiar. "Stand down." "Mason." The room went cold. It was Dr. Sloane's voice. On the screen, Mason turned toward him. "You said this was a security audit." Sloane's recorded voice answered. "It was, until you became difficult." The video jolted. Ranger barked. Someone shouted. A vehicle engine roared. Mason cursed and fell. The camera spun toward gravel. Ranger's body flashed across the frame. Then came Mason's voice. Weaker now. "Ranger. Guard." The screen went black. No one spoke. Not Emily. Not Patel. Not the guards. Not even Sloane. Ranger gave a low whine. The sound broke Hannah's heart. He had heard it again. His last order, "Guard." He had carried that order through injury. Rain. Locked doors. Shouting strangers. And a doctor trying to take away the proof. Hannah rested her hand against his neck. You did. Ranger turned his head into her palm. For a moment, the whole ER saw him clearly. Not a dangerous animal, not a liability. A loyal K-9 who had finished a mission no human in power wanted completed. If you believe Ranger knew Hannah was trying to protect him before anyone else did, right. Ranger knew in the comments. Some dogs understand loyalty before people do. Then Sloan moved, not toward Hannah, toward Dawes. His hand shot out for the device. Rains caught his wrist before he touched it. The movement was fast, controlled, and final. Do not, Rains said. Sloan's face twisted. That recording is illegally obtained. Rains held his wrist. You want to discuss illegal conduct. This is edited. Fabricated. You have no chain of custody. Dawes lifted the sealed plastic. It was recovered in front of 8 witnesses from the vest your staff tried to seize. Sloan looked around the room. For the first time, he understood the witnesses were not his people anymore. Emily was crying silently. Patel's face was pale with anger. The guard who had refused to drag Ranger out stared at Sloan like he wanted to apologize to the dog. Sloan yanked his wrist free. All of you are making a mistake. This hospital has contracts, protocols, liability coverage. You have no idea what is at stake. Hannah stood slowly. Her knees hurt. Her scrubs were soaked. Her badge was still in Sloan's pocket, but her voice was steady. A man is in trauma 3. She said, a dog almost died on your floor. That is what is at stake. Sloan turned on her. You are not part of this. Ranger growled. This time, he did not lift his head much. He did not need to. The room heard him. Rains looked toward the local officer near the ambulance doors. Officer. Doctor. Sloan attempted to interfere with recovered evidence. I want that noted. The officer nodded. Noted. Sloan's eyes widened. You cannot be serious. The officer said, Doctor, I watched you reach for the device. That is not interference. That is hospital oversight. Rains said. You are done using hospital language to hide what everyone saw. Before Sloan could answer, an alarm sounded from Trauma Bay. 3. Patel turned and ran. Mason's waking. He called. Ranger tried to stand so fast. Hannah barely caught him. No. No. Easy. But this time, Ranger did not listen. His body pulled toward the bay with the last strength he had. Doctor. Marsh moved beside Hannah. Let him see the handler. Carefully, Rains stepped around Ranger's vest. Keeping the evidence device in Dawes' custody, clear a path. No one argued, not even Sloan. Together, Hannah and Doctor. Marsh helped Ranger onto the blanket stretcher. The dog hated it at first, until Hannah kept one hand near his head and Rains walked where he could see him. They moved him the few yards to Trauma Bay 3. It felt like a mile. Mason Vale lay under white sheets. One side of his face bruised. Tubes taped carefully. Eyes barely open. He looked older than 41 in that moment. Smaller than the titled Navy SEAL made people imagine. Pain had stripped him down to breath and bone. His eyes moved. First to Rains, then to Hannah, then to Ranger. Everything in him broke open. Ranger, he whispered. The Malinois lifted his head from the blanket. His tail moved once, only once. But everyone saw it. Mason's hand trembled off the sheet. Hannah guided it down until his fingers touched Ranger's head. The dog closed his eyes. Mason cried without sound. Rains turned away for half a second. Hannah stayed where she was. Her hand still supported Ranger's shoulder. But she let the moment belong to Mason. Mason's voice scraped out. He brought it. Rains stepped closer. Yeah, he brought it. Mason's eyes shut hard. Sloan. Rains looked toward the corridor. Sloan stood outside the bay. Pale and rigid. He is here, Rains said. Mason opened his eyes. They found Sloan. For a long moment, the two men stared at each other. Then Mason spoke. You told them Ranger attacked the test team. Sloan said nothing. Mason's voice was weak. but each word carried. He didn't attack. He stopped them from using the dogs on civilians. Raines's jaw tightened. Hannah looked down at Ranger. The dog was watching Mason now. The vest did not matter in that second. The mission had reached its human witness. Mason turned his eyes back to Hannah. You kept him alive. Hannah nodded once. They fired her for it. Emily said from the doorway. Hannah looked back at her. Emily wiped her face, but did not lower her eyes. Mason's hand tightened weakly in Ranger's fur. Raines turned toward Sloane. Doctor, he said, you are done giving orders in this room. Sloane tried one last time. This is emotional manipulation, he said. You are letting a patient under medication make accusations in a trauma bay. Patel stepped out from behind the monitor. He was not medicated when the video was recorded, he said, and neither were you. Sloane stared at him. Patel's voice steadied. I heard your voice on that recording. Emily stepped beside him. So did I. The guard near the wall said, so did I. On by on. The room stopped protecting Sloane with silence. Ranger laid his head against Mason's hand. The monitor beeped steadily. Hannah looked at Sloane. And for the first time all night, she saw him understand what Ranger had understood from the beginning. The vest was not just fabric. The dog was not just a dog. And the quiet nurse he fired was not alone anymore. Doctor, Everett Sloane looked smaller outside Trauma Bay 3. Not weak, not sorry, just smaller. For most of the night, he had filled the ER with his voice. Orders, threats, policy, liability. Words sharp enough to make good people lower their heads. Now the room had heard his voice on the recording. No title could cover that. No white coat could make it clean. Commander Raines stood in the corridor with Dawes beside him. The memory card was sealed in a clear evidence pouch. The blood-marked ghost patch was sealed separately. Ranger's vest lay on a clean trauma blanket under Dr. Clough. Marsh's watch. No longer hidden. No longer being fought over. Ranger watched it from Mason's bedside. His head rested near Mason's hand, but his eyes stayed on the vest. Even now, he was not done until someone told him he was. Hannah saw it. So did Renz. The local officer stepped toward Sloane. Doctor, I need you to remain available for questioning. Sloane gave a bitter laugh. Questioning? On what basis? Raines answered before the officer could. Evidence interference. Possible obstruction. Failure to report an incident involving a veteran patient. Coordination with private contractors during an unauthorized security exercise. We can start there. Sloane's face hardened. You have a 30-second video clip and a patient barely conscious. Dawes held up the sealed pouch. We have original media recovered from Ranger's vest. We have witnesses. We have hospital footage being preserved. And we have you trying to grab the device after playback. Sloane looked at the staff around him. No one stepped forward for him. Not Emily. Not Patel. Not the guards. The silence that had protected him all night had changed sides. Then a woman in a gray suit hurried through the ambulance doors. Her face, pale and tense. Hannah recognized her as Marlene Keene, the hospital's night administrator. What happened? Keene demanded. I got a call from legal. Then the board chair? Then military police. Why is my emergency department locked down? Sloane turned toward her like a drowning man seeing shore. Marlena. Finally. This has gotten completely out of control. Raines looked at Keene. Are you the administrator on duty? Yes. Then you need to hear this clearly. Doctor, Sloane is not to access the security office. Patient records for Mason Vale. Staff disciplinary files involving Hannah Cole, or any footage from tonight. Keene blinked. Excuse me, Sloane snapped. Do not listen to him. This man is trying to intimidate the hospital. Emily stepped forward. Her voice was small, but it did not break. Doctor, Sloane fired Hannah because she saved Ranger. Keene looked at her. Who is Ranger? Before anyone could answer. The dog lifted his head. Everyone looked into Trauma Bay 3. Ranger stared at Keene from beside Mason's bed. His body was wrapped. His breathing still labored, his eyes exhausted. But there was nothing weak in the way he watched the door. Mason's fingers rested in the fur behind Ranger's ear. "That's Ranger," Mason whispered. Keen's expression changed, not enough to fix what had happened, but enough to make her stop listening only to Sloane. Patel spoke next. "Doctor." Sloane ordered security to seize the dog's vest before the patient was identified. The guard near the wall raised his hand slightly. "That's true." "Doctor," Marsh added. The dog was in shock. Nurse Cole kept him stable until my team arrived. Moving him the way Dr. Sloane ordered could have killed him. Keen looked at Hannah. For the first time all night, an administrator saw her. Not as a problem, not as a badge number, as the person kneeling in blood, because nobody else would. Hannah stood near Mason's bed, one hand resting gently on Ranger's shoulder. Her scrubs were torn. Her badge was gone. Her hair had slipped from its tie. She looked exhausted enough to fall over. Keen said, "Nurse Cole, is this accurate?" Sloane cut in. "She is no longer Nurse Cole. I terminated her for cause." Keen turned to him sharply. "You terminated an ER nurse during an active trauma event. She violated policy. She kept the dog alive." Patel said, "She preserved evidence." Rain said, "She stopped us from making it worse." The guard said. Sloane's face went dark. "All of you are forgetting yourselves." "No," Hannah said. Everyone turned to her. She had not spoken loudly. She did not need to. "We remembered," she said. The words hung there. Keen looked from Hannah to Ranger. From Ranger to Mason. From Mason to Sloane. Then she made the first correct decision the hospital had made all night. "Dr. Sloane," she said, "you are relieved of emergency command pending formal review." Sloane stared at her. "You cannot be serious." "I am." "You are taking their side over your chief physician. I am protecting this hospital from whatever you brought into it." That hit harder than shouting. Sloane stepped toward her. "Marlena, think carefully." Rains moved just enough to place himself between them. Sloane stopped. Keen's voice steadied. "Security, collect Dr. Sloane's access badge." The guard who had refused to drag Ranger away stepped forward. For 1 second, he hesitated. Then Sloane's own badge came off his coat. The sound of the clip snapping free was quiet, but everyone heard it. Sloane looked at Hannah. His eyes were full of hate. "You think this makes you a hero?" Hannah looked at Ranger. The dog's eyes were closing, but his paw stretched toward the vest one more time. "No," she said. "It makes him one." Rain stepped into the bay and crouched beside Ranger. He did not reach for the dog first. He reached for the vest pouch, holding it where Ranger could see it. "Ranger," he said. "Evidence secure." Ranger's ears twitched. Rains kept his voice steady. But Hannah heard the emotion under it. "Mission complete." The words changed the dog. His whole body released, not all at once. Ranger was too hurt for a dramatic collapse. It was smaller than that. His paw slid off the blanket. His head lowered. The tightness in his jaw faded. For the first time since he had crashed through the ER doors, Ranger stopped guarding. Mason's hand shook in his fur. "Good boy," Mason whispered. "Good boy." Ranger closed his eyes. Hannah looked away because she suddenly could not breathe. She had seen men thank dogs before. She had seen handlers break only after the mission was over. She had seen loyalty hold a body together longer than medicine should allow. But this was different. Because Ranger had not only saved Mason, he had forced an entire hospital to look at the truth. Keen stepped closer to Hannah. "Your termination is rescinded." Hannah gave a tired laugh without humor. "That was quick. It should never have happened." "No," Hannah said. "It shouldn't have." Keen took that without defending herself. "That mattered. We will document that you acted under emergency circumstances to stabilize a retired military working dog connected to an unidentified veteran patient." Keen said, "And we will open an external review into tonight's decisions." Rains said, "You will also freeze all Apex MedShield access to this hospital." Keene looked at him. Already done as of now. Sloane's head snapped toward her. You have no idea how much funding that contract protects. Keene looked back at him. Then we will find out during the audit. For the first time, Sloane had nothing. No policy, no threat, no room. The local officer gestured toward the corridor. Dr. Sloane, come with me. Sloane looked once more at Hannah, as if trying to leave a wound with his eyes. But Ranger opened his eyes at that exact moment. A low growl rolled from the bed. Sloane turned away. The officer led him down the corridor past the nurse's station, where he had once ruled by fear. Staff watched him go. No one clapped. No one cheered. That would have made it smaller. The justice was quiet, but it was real. By 2 a.m. St. Bartholomew Regional had changed. Not completely. Hospitals did not become good because one bad man lost his badge. But the first corrections began before sunrise. Apex MedShield's access cards were disabled. Security footage from the ambulance entrance. Service road. Trauma corridor. And security office was preserved under legal hold. Mason Vale's patient file was locked from unauthorized edits. Hannah's disciplinary record from the night was suspended pending correction. Marlene Keene stood at the nurse's station with Emily. Patel. Dr. Marsh. Renz. And the local officer? Her voice sounded different now. Less polished. More human. Effective immediately. She said, no service animal. Retired working dog. Or military K. 9. Connected to an emergency patient will be removed without clinical assessment. Handler identification attempt. And administrator review, Emily asked. And if the handler is unconscious, then emergency contacts on tags. Vests. Collar. Or patient property must be checked before removal. Patel looked at Hannah. And if a nurse identifies a safety or evidence concern, Keene took a breath. Then that nurse has escalation authority without retaliation. The words were not enough. Words never were. But Hannah knew policy could be either a wall or a door. Tonight, for once, someone had cut a door into it. Rains stepped beside her. You should sit down, he said. I'm fine. You are swaying. I'm tired. That is what people say right before they hit the floor. Hannah almost smiled. Almost. Rains held out her badge. She stared at it. The plastic was scratched. The torn clip still had a thread from her scrub pocket caught in it. Keene gave it to me. Rains said, thought maybe I should hand it back. Hannah did not take it right away. For years, that badge had meant work. Bills, long shifts, quiet competence. It had also meant swallowing disrespect because patients needed her more than pride did. Tonight, Sloane had used it like a leash. Now Rains held it like something earned. Hannah took it, but she did not clip it on. Not yet. Rains noticed. Former Navy, he asked. Hannah looked toward Mason's room. Corpsman support. Trauma stabilization. A long time ago. Ghost teams. She was quiet. Rains did not push. After a moment, Hannah said, I knew the code format. That's all. Rains looked at Ranger through the glass. That dog accepted you under stress. While wounded. Guarding evidence. With his handler down. That is not, that's all. Hannah's fingers closed around the badge. I lost one once. She said. Rains's face softened. A dog. A handler and a dog. She said. Different place. Different war. Same sound when the dog realized the man wasn't getting up. Rains said nothing. That was the right answer. Some grief did not need comfort. It needed room. Inside the trauma bay. Mason stirred. Hannah stepped in before anyone asked. Mason's eyes opened slowly. Ranger lay beside the bed on a thick pad, doctor. Marsh had approved. Wrapped and monitored. Finally warm. His breathing was still rough, but steady. Mason looked at Hannah's hand. You got your badge back. he whispered. She glanced down at it. Not wearing it yet. Why? Hannah sat beside the bed, still deciding what it means. Mason looked at Ranger. He usually hates hospitals. He has taste. A weak smile moved across Mason's face. Then his eyes filled. He came after me. Hannah nodded. All the way to the ambulance doors. With the vest? Yes. Mason closed his eyes. I told him to guard. He did. I didn't know if anyone would understand. Hannah looked at Ranger sleeping under the dim light. He found someone stubborn enough. Mason opened his eyes again. Thank you. Hannah wanted to say it was nothing, but it was not nothing. It had cost her something. Maybe not her job in the end, but something quieter. The old wall she had built around that field tent memory had cracked wide open tonight, so she did not lie. You're welcome, she said. Ranger moved in his sleep. His paw twitched once. Hannah reached down and let her fingers rest near his nose. The dog woke just enough to smell her. Then he pressed his nose into her hand. Not guarding, not warning, just there. Mason watched it happen. He doesn't do that with strangers. Hannah looked at the dog. I don't think we're strangers anymore. Outside the window. The rain had stopped. The first pale line of morning touched the hospital glass. Steint. Bartholomew Regional looked almost peaceful in that light. It was not innocent. Not after tonight. But maybe it was honest for the first time in a long while. In the corridor. Emily handed Patel a cup of coffee. The guard who had refused Sloane's order sat with his head in his hands. Shaken but relieved. Keene spoke quietly with Legal. Raines stood watch near the door. Not because anyone asked him to, but because some people only rested when someone else took the watch. Hannah finally clipped the badge back to her scrubs. The torn pocket made it hang crooked. She left it that way. Mason saw it and gave a weak nod. Ranger exhaled. Long and deep, then the dog who had crossed Rain. Blood. Fear. Policy. And power finally slept. And this time, no one tried to take away what he was guarding. If this story reminded you of a veteran, a nurse, a handler, or a loyal dog you respect, stay with this channel. These stories are fictional, but the loyalty, courage, and quiet people they honor are very real.